Andrew Caldwell smirked as the judge raised the gavel. He had won. His wife, Charlotte, sat across the aisle, head bowed, about to be left penniless. She was the poor waitress he had rescued, and now he was discarding her for a younger, pregnant mistress. He leaned over, whispering that she was worthless without him. But he was wrong. As the gavel fell, the courtroom doors blasted open. A man in a charcoal suit stepped in. Harrison Sterling, the billionaire CEO who owned Andrew's entire company. Andrew froze in terror. He didn't know his worthless wife was actually the CEO's fierce little sister. Date: October 14th, 2023. Location: the Caldwell residence, Highland Park, Illinois. The rain in Chicago always felt colder in October, but it was nothing compared to the chill inside the master bedroom of 420 Oakwood Drive. Charlotte Caldwell stood by the window, staring at the gray sky. She was 32, with soft features and a quiet demeanor that people often mistook for weakness. For 5 years, she had played the role of the perfect wife to Andrew Caldwell. She had hosted his dinner parties, managed his social calendar, and smoothed over his temper tantrums when business at Caldwell Logistics wasn't going his way. She heard the heavy footsteps before the door opened. Andrew walked in. He didn't look at her. He went straight to the walk-in closet and pulled out a suitcase, the Louis Vuitton one she had bought him for their 2nd anniversary. Andrew, Charlotte asked, her voice trembling slightly. "What are you doing?" "You've been gone for 3 days." Andrew threw the suitcase onto the bed. "I'm packing." "But actually, Charlotte." "You should be packing." Charlotte froze. "What?" Andrew turned to face her. He was a handsome man, in that sharp, predatory way. Dark hair, jawline that could cut glass, and eyes that used to look at her with adoration, but now held nothing but contempt. "I'm filing for divorce," he said, as casually as if he were ordering a coffee. "My lawyer, Mr. Henderson, will have the papers sent over by noon." "You need to be out of the house by tonight." Charlotte felt the air leave her lungs. "Divorce?" "Andrew, we were just talking about trying for a baby last week." "What is this?" Andrew let out a short, cruel laugh. "We?" "No, you were talking about a baby." "I was talking about my future. And my future doesn't include a mousy housewife who brings nothing to the table." He walked over to the dresser and picked up his watch, a Rolex Daytona. "Look, let's not make this messy. I met someone else. Someone who actually matches my ambition." "Jessica," Charlotte felt sick. "Jessica Miller." She was the 24-year-old marketing intern Andrew had hired 6 months ago. The one Charlotte had invited to Thanksgiving because she had no family in the city. "Jessica," Charlotte whispered. "She sat at our table, Andrew." "She understands me," Andrew snapped, slamming the suitcase shut. "And more importantly, she's pregnant." "It's a boy." Finally, a legacy. He walked up to Charlotte, invading her personal space. "Now here is the reality check you need. When I married you, you were nobody. You said you had no family, no money, nothing. I picked you up from that diner you were waitressing at and gave you a life. And now I'm taking it back. I signed a prenup, Charlotte said quietly. Exactly, Andrew smirked. A prenup that states if the marriage ends under any circumstances, you leave with what you came with. Which, if I recall correctly, was a duffel bag of used clothes and a beat-up Honda Civic that died 3 years ago. You can't just kick me out, Charlotte said, tears welling up. I have no savings. You made me quit my job to manage the house. I have nowhere to go. Andrew checked his phone. Not my problem. I'll give you $500 cash for a motel. Consider it a severance package. The locks will be changed at 6:00 p.m. If you're still here, I'm calling the police for trespassing. He grabbed his bag and headed for the door. Before he left, he paused. Oh, and Charlotte, don't try to fight this in court. I know the best lawyers in Chicago. You're a high school dropout waitress. You won't stand a chance. The door slammed. The sound echoed through the empty house like a gunshot. Charlotte stood there for a long time. She didn't cry. The tears stopped as soon as the door closed. She walked over to the nightstand and picked up a framed photo of their wedding day. She looked at Andrew's smiling face, then at her own, young, naive, and desperate for love. She took a deep breath, her hands shaking, not from fear, but from a rising, cold anger. Andrew was right about one thing. She had told him she was an orphan with no family. She had told him she was poor. She had lied. She walked to the back of the closet, past the designer gowns Andrew insisted she wear, and pulled out a small, locked metal box she had kept hidden for 5 years. She dialed a combination 0815. Inside lay a single burner phone and a faded photograph of 2 children standing in front of a massive estate in the Hamptons. Charlotte picked up the phone. It had one number saved in it. She stared at it for a long time. She had promised herself she would never make this call. She had walked away from that life, the toxicity, the pressure, the expectations, to find someone who loved her for her, not her last name. She thought Andrew was that man. She dialed the number. It rang twice. This is the private line of Harrison Sterling, a deep, gruff voice answered. Who is this, Harry? Charlotte said, her voice cracking. It's me. It's Lottie. There was a silence on the other end, so profound it felt like the world had stopped. Lottie, the voice lost its hardness. Charlotte. My God. It's been 7 years. Where are you? I'm in Chicago, she said. I made a mistake, Harry. A big one. Are you safe for now? But I'm about to be homeless. Not on my watch, Harrison said, his voice turning to steel. Stay where you are. I'm sending the jet. And Lottie, whoever did this to you. Tell me his name. His name is Andrew Caldwell, Charlotte said. And Harry, I don't just want to leave. I want to destroy him. Harrison Sterling, the CEO of Sterling Global, the parent company that had quietly acquired Caldwell Logistics 3 months ago in a blind trust deal, let out a dark chuckle. Sit tight, little sister. The game just started. Date, November 20th, 2023. Location, a rundown apartment in South Chicago. Andrew Caldwell was living the high life. In the month since he had kicked Charlotte out, he had moved Jessica into the Highland Park mansion. He had redecorated the master bedroom, bought a new Porsche, and was walking around the office of Caldwell Logistics like he owned the city. He had no idea that his company was currently under a microscopic audit by his new parent company, Sterling Global. He just assumed the suits in New York were doing standard due diligence. Meanwhile, Charlotte was playing her part perfectly. Harrison had wanted to put her up in the penthouse of the Ritz-Carlton. He wanted to storm Andrew's office the next day with a team of Navy SEALs. But Charlotte had said no. He needs to think he's winning, Charlotte had told her brother over a secured line. If he knows I'm a Sterling, he'll settle. He'll try to get a payout. I want him to expose himself completely. I want him to stand in front of a judge and say I deserve nothing. I want it on public record. So Charlotte moved into a small, drafty studio apartment in South Chicago. She got a job as a barista at a local coffee chain. She wore thrift store clothes. She looked exhausted. And she made sure Andrew saw it. One afternoon, Andrew walked into that very coffee shop with Jessica on his arm. It wasn't an accident. He had tracked Charlotte's credit card, the one joint card he hadn't cancelled, yet just so he could spy on her purchases. Well, well, Andrew announced, his voice booming across the quiet cafe. He walked up to the counter, wearing a $3,000 Italian suit. Charlotte froze, a pitcher of steamed milk in her hand. Jessica stood next to him, her hand resting protectively over a barely visible baby bump. She looked at Charlotte with pity which was worse than hate. "A venti latte for me and a herbal tea for the lady," Andrew said, tossing a $20 bill on the counter. "Keep the change. You look like you need it." "Andrew, please," Charlotte said, keeping her head down. "Don't cause a scene." "I'm not causing a scene. I'm just checking on my charity case," Andrew laughed. He leaned in over the counter. "My lawyer tells me you haven't signed the final papers yet." "You're stalling, Charlotte." "It's pathetic. I just want what's fair," Charlotte said softly. "I helped you build that company, Andrew. I organized the galas. I networked for you. I deserve some support." "You deserve what the prenup says," Andrew hissed. "Nothing. We go to court next week. And when the judge sees you like this, serving coffee, looking like a mess, he's going to grant me everything. I'm going to make sure you pay my legal fees." He grabbed his coffee. "See you in court, sweetheart." As they walked out, Jessica giggled. "She looks terrible, Andrew." "Are you sure she's okay?" "She's a loser, Jess. Always was." "I just woke up." Charlotte watched them leave. Her hands were shaking, but she forced herself to breathe. She took off her apron and walked to the back room. She pulled out her burner phone. "He took the bait," she texted. 30 seconds later, a reply came from Harrison. "Good. The forensic accountant's just finished with his books." He's been embezzling from the company accounts to pay for that Porsche and the mistress's jewelry. We have him on tax fraud, embezzlement, and breach of contract. But we'll wait for the court date, Charlotte smiled. It was the first time she had genuinely smiled in months. Date, December 5th, 2023. Location, Cook County Courthouse, Courtroom 4B. The day of the hearing arrived. Andrew walked in with Mr. Henderson, a shark of a lawyer known for destroying spouses in divorce cases. They had 3 boxes of evidence, receipts, bank statements, and character assassinations aimed at proving Charlotte was lazy and contributed nothing to the marriage. Charlotte walked in alone. She wore a simple grey suit she had bought at a discount store. She carried a single manila folder. She sat at the defendant's table, looking small and isolated. The judge, a stern man named Judge Reynolds, looked over his glasses. "Ms. Caldwell, where is your legal counsel?" "I am representing myself, Your Honor," Charlotte said, her voice quiet. Andrew scoffed audibly. Mr. Henderson leaned over. "This is going to be a slaughter." "Very well," the judge said. "Mr. Henderson, proceed." For the next hour, Andrew's lawyer tore Charlotte apart. He painted a picture of a gold digger who had trapped a successful businessman, lived off his hard-earned money, and refused to work. Then Andrew took the stand. "She was a burden, Your Honor," Andrew said, looking straight at the judge with practiced sincerity. "I tried to help her. I tried to encourage her. But she just wanted to spend my money. And now that I've found true happiness with a woman who works hard, Charlotte is trying to extort me." "And what is your current financial status, Mr. Caldwell?" Henderson asked. "I am the regional VP of Caldwell Logistics," Andrew said proudly. "I built that company from the ground up, and you have a prenup?" "Yes." "Signed 5 years ago." "Total separation of assets, Your Honor," Henderson concluded. "We ask that the prenuptial agreement be enforced strictly. Ms. Caldwell receives nothing. Furthermore, we ask for a restraining order to prevent her from harassing my client at his workplace." Judge Reynolds turned to Charlotte. "Ms. Caldwell, do you have anything to say?" "Any witnesses?" Charlotte stood up. She looked at Andrew. He was smirking. He checked his watch, bored. "I do have one witness, Your Honor," Charlotte said. Her voice was different now. Stronger. The tremble was gone. "Is he present?" the judge asked. "He's running a little late," Charlotte said. "He had to fly in from New York. But he should be here." "Right about now," Andrew rolled his eyes. "Who is it?" "Her shift manager at Starbucks." At that moment, the heavy wooden doors at the back of the courtroom didn't just open, they were pushed open with authority. The room went silent. Harrison Sterling walked in. He wasn't alone. Behind him were 2 men in dark suits carrying briefcases, and a woman who Andrew recognized instantly as the toughest corporate litigator in the country, Samantha West. But it was Harrison who commanded the room. He was 6'3", with silver fox hair and a jawline that looked like it was carved from granite. He wore a suit that cost more than Andrew's car. Andrew frowned. He knew that face. He had seen it on the cover of Forbes magazine last month. He had seen it on the internal memos of Sterling Global, the company that now owned Coldwell Logistics. "Who is this?" Judge Reynolds asked, banging his gavel to restore order. Harrison walked straight through the gate, ignoring the bailiff. He stopped right next to Charlotte. He placed a hand gently on her shoulder, then turned his cold, blue eyes toward Andrew. Andrew felt a shiver of pure, primal fear run down his spine. "I apologize for the interruption, Your Honor," Harrison said, his voice deep and resonating off the walls. "My name is Harrison Sterling, CEO of Sterling Global." The judge's eyebrows shot up. "I know who you are, Mr. Sterling. But this is a family court." "What is your business here?" Harrison smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "This is family business, Your Honor." He looked at Charlotte. "I am the defendant's brother," Andrew gasped. He actually gasped. "What? And," Harrison continued, turning back to the judge, "I am also the owner of the company Mr. Coldwell claims he built, and I have some evidence regarding his finances that I believe the court and the FBI will find very interesting." Andrew stood up, knocking his chair over. "Brother, she's an orphan. She told me she was an orphan." Charlotte looked at Andrew, her eyes icy. "I told you I had no family because I wanted to be sure you loved me for me, not my money. You failed that test, Andrew." "Badly," Harrison signaled to his lawyers. "Shall we begin?" Date: December 5th, 2023. Location: Cook County Courthouse, Courtroom 4B. The silence in the courtroom was thick, suffocating. Even the court reporter had stopped typing, her hands hovering over the keys, mouth slightly agape. Andrew Coldwell looked like he had been slapped. He blinked rapidly, his eyes darting between Charlotte, who sat with a poised, icy calmness, and Harrison Sterling, the titan of industry, standing protectively beside her. "Brother," Andrew sputtered, his voice cracking. "That's impossible. She's nobody. She worked at a diner in Queens. She told me her parents died in a car crash." "Half true," Harrison said, his voice smooth but dangerous. "Our parents did die in a crash. When Charlotte was 12. I raised her. And when she turned 25, she decided she was tired of men only wanting her for the Sterling Trust Fund. So she went off the grid. She wanted to find someone real." Harrison took a step closer to the railing. "She thought she found that in you, Andrew. Imagine my disappointment when I found out the man my sister married was not only a narcissist but a thief." "Objection, Mr. Henderson," Andrew's lawyer finally found his voice. He jumped up, sweating. "Your Honor, this is highly irregular. Mr. Sterling is not a party to this divorce. His presence here is intimidation. And these allegations of theft are slanderous." Judge Reynolds adjusted his glasses, looking at the billionaire standing in his courtroom. "Mr. Sterling, these are serious accusations. You said you have evidence regarding the financial status of the plaintiff." "I do, Your Honor," Harrison said. He snapped his fingers. Samantha West, the formidable attorney Harrison had brought with him, stepped forward. She placed a heavy, red leather binder on the judge's bench and a duplicate copy on the defense table in front of a stunned Andrew. Andrew Caldwell claims he is the sole breadwinner, Samantha began, her voice crisp and articulate. He claims his net worth is approximately $4 million, tied up in Caldwell Logistics stock and real estate. He is asking this court to enforce a prenuptial agreement based on these financial disclosures. She paused, turning to look directly at Andrew. However, the audit conducted by Sterling Global, the parent company that acquired Caldwell Logistics, tells a very different story. Andrew grabbed the binder. His hands were shaking so hard he couldn't flip the pages. "Open to tab 3, Mr. Caldwell," Samantha commanded. Andrew did. His face drained of all color. "What is this?" Judge Reynolds asked, reading his copy. "That," Samantha explained, "is a record of 24 separate wire transfers made over the last 18 months. Mr. Caldwell has been siphoning funds from the logistics operational budget into a shell company called Apex Consulting in the Cayman Islands. He then used Apex to purchase the luxury vehicles he drives, the jewelry he gifted to his mistress, Ms. Jessica Miller, and to pay the mortgage on the Highland Park estate." Jessica, sitting in the back row, gasped. She instinctively covered her diamond necklace with her hand. "That's a lie," Andrew screamed, standing up. That's consulting fees. Valid business expenses. We contacted the registered agent for Apex Consulting," Harrison interjected, his voice booming. "Turns out the registered agent is your college roommate, David Thorne. And he was very eager to cut a deal with the SEC when we told him what you were doing." Andrew slumped back into his chair. He felt like the floor was dissolving beneath him. "You stole $2.3 million from the company," Harrison said, his voice dropping to a terrifying whisper. "You stole from my company. Which means you stole from your wife's family, but the prenup." Andrew's lawyer tried, though his heart clearly wasn't in it. "The prenup protects his premarital assets." "The prenup is void," Charlotte spoke up. Everyone turned to her. It was the first time she had spoken since Harrison entered. She stood up, smoothing her cheap gray skirt. "Clause 14, Section B," Charlotte recited from memory. "Full financial disclosure is required by both parties. Any concealment of assets, fraudulent activity, or criminal financial conduct by either party renders the agreement null and void and subjects the offending party to full asset forfeiture to the injured spouse." She looked at Andrew. "You wrote that clause, Andrew. You were so afraid I would steal from you. You wanted to make sure that if I ever hid $1, you could take everything." She smiled, a sad, broken smile. "You built the trap that just snapped your own neck." Judge Reynolds looked at the documents, then at Andrew. The judge's expression had shifted from neutral to disgusted. "Mr. Henderson," the judge said to Andrew's lawyer, "it appears your client has committed perjury on his financial affidavit. He has listed assets as personal property that are, in fact, proceeds of embezzlement. I cannot divide marital assets that are actually stolen property. Your Honor, I need a recess," Henderson stammered. "I need to confer with my client. There will be no recess," Harrison said. Because I'm not done. Harrison pulled out a single sheet of paper from his inner pocket. Andrew Caldwell, Harrison said formally. As the chairman of the board for Sterling Global, I am personally delivering this. Notice. You are terminated from your position as Regional VP, effective immediately for cause. Gross misconduct, embezzlement, and breach of fiduciary duty. You can't fire me here, Andrew whispered. I built that office, and I own it, Harrison shot back. Your company car has already been repossessed from the parking lot outside. Your company credit cards have been cancelled as of 9:00 a.m. this morning. And the Highland Park house, Harrison smirked. Since the mortgage payments were made with stolen company funds, Sterling Global has exercised its lien on the property. We served the eviction notice to your mistress an hour ago. The locks are being changed as we speak. Andrew whipped his head around to look at Jessica. Jessica was looking at her phone, her thumbs flying across the screen. She looked up, her eyes wide with panic. Andrew, my sister just texted me. There are movers at the house. They're putting my things on the curb. Jessica, baby, calm down, Andrew pleaded, reaching over the barrier. Jessica stood up. The sweet, innocent intern act vanished instantly. Her face twisted into a snarl. Calm down. You told me you were rich. You told me she was the loser. You're unemployed. It's a temporary setback, Andrew cried. You're going to jail, you idiot, Jessica shouted. She grabbed her purse. I'm not raising a baby with a felon. Don't call me. She stormed out of the courtroom, her heels clicking loudly on the linoleum. The door swung shut behind her, leaving Andrew in a silence that was even heavier than before. He was alone. Completely, utterly alone. Date December 5th, 2023. Location Cook County Courthouse holding area. The judge didn't just dismiss the divorce case. He paused it. In light of the substantial evidence of criminal activity, Judge Reynolds ruled, banging his gavel with a force that made Andrew flinch, I am freezing all assets associated with Mr. Caldwell. I am also referring this evidence to the district attorney's office immediately. Bailiff, please ensure Mr. Caldwell does not leave the building. Andrew sat in his chair, catatonic. His lawyer, Mr. Henderson, was already packing his briefcase. Where are you going? Andrew rasped, grabbing Henderson's sleeve. I'm withdrawing as your counsel, Andrew, Henderson said coldly, pulling his arm away. My retainer agreement specifically states that I do not represent clients who use my services to further criminal enterprises. You lied to the court. You lied to me. You're on your own, Henderson walked out. Andrew looked across the aisle. Charlotte was gathering her papers. She looked calm, clean, dignified. Harrison stood beside her, checking his watch. Andrew stood up, his legs wobbling. Charlotte, she didn't turn. Charlotte, please, he begged, his voice breaking into a sob. He rushed toward the railing, but one of Harrison's bodyguards stepped in his path, a wall of muscle blocking him. Let him through, Charlotte said. Softly. The bodyguard stepped aside. Andrew stumbled toward her. He looked pathetic. The arrogance was gone, replaced by the terrified look of a man who realized he was standing on the edge of an abyss. Lottie, he said, using the nickname he hadn't used in years. Lottie, look at me. It's Andy. We can fix this. I made a mistake. A huge mistake. I got lost. The pressure of the job. Jessica. She manipulated me. Charlotte looked at him. Her eyes were dry. She didn't manipulate you, Andrew. She was just a mirror. She showed you exactly who you wanted to be. And I showed you who you really are. I love you, Andrew cried, reaching for her hand. I still love you. We can go back. I'll sign whatever you want. Just tell your brother to stop. Tell him not to press charges. Please. I'll do anything. Charlotte looked down at his hand, the hand that had thrown her suitcase on the bed 2 months ago. The hand that had pointed to the door and told her she was worthless. You told me to leave with nothing, Charlotte said, her voice steady and clear. You wanted me to be homeless. You wanted me to suffer because it made you feel powerful. I was angry. I didn't mean it. You meant every word, she corrected him. You just didn't think I had the power to survive it. She leaned in close, so only he could hear. I'm not going to ask Harrison to stop, Andrew. I'm going to let him do exactly what the law demands. You're going to lose the house. You're going to lose the cars. You've already lost the job. And you're going to prison, Andrew sobbed, falling to his knees in the middle of the courtroom. But I'm not cruel, Charlotte whispered. She reached into her purse. Andrew looked up, hope flaring in his eyes. Was she giving him a check? A key? A second chance? Charlotte pulled out a crumpled $5 bill and 2 singles. $7. She dropped the money on the floor in front of him. You gave me $500 when you kicked me out, she said. I'm returning the favor. But adjusted for inflation of my dignity, this is what you're worth to me now, Charlotte. Goodbye, Andrew. She turned and walked away. Harrison placed a hand on her back, guiding her toward the exit. As they reached the double doors, the side entrance of the courtroom burst open. 2 uniformed police officers and a man in a suit, clearly a detective, marched in. Andrew Caldwell, the detective barked. Andrew, still on his knees, gathering the $7, looked up. You are under arrest for grand larceny, wire fraud and embezzlement, the detective said, pulling out a pair of handcuffs. The sound of the cuffs ratcheting shut echoed through the room. Charlotte didn't look back. She pushed the doors open and walked out into the hallway where the press had already gathered. Flashbulbs erupted, blindingly bright. Ms. Caldwell. Ms. Caldwell. Is it true you're a Sterling? Mr. Sterling, did you buy the company just to catch him? Is he going to jail? Harrison stepped in front of the cameras, raising a hand. My sister has no comment at this time. But I will say this, betrayal is expensive. And today the bill came due. They walked through the crowd, down the marble steps of the courthouse, and toward a waiting black SUV. As Charlotte climbed into the plush leather backseat, she let out a long, shaky breath. The adrenaline was fading, leaving her exhausted. Harrison climbed in beside her. The door shut, sealing out the noise of the paparazzi and the chaos of the city. "You okay?" Harrison asked gently. Charlotte looked out the tinted window. She saw the police car pulling up to the side entrance of the courthouse to take Andrew away. "I don't know," she admitted. "I thought I would feel happy. I just feel relieved." "Relief is good," Harrison said. "Relief is the beginning. What happens now?" Charlotte asked. "I really don't have anywhere to go, Harry. I gave up my apartment this morning." Harrison smiled, a genuine, warm smile this time. "Well, that's where the next part comes in. You remember the estate in the Hamptons? The one in the photo? Yeah, it's yours. I signed the deed over to you this morning. It's been empty for years, waiting for you to come home. But before you go there, there's someone you need to meet." Charlotte frowned. "Who?" "Someone who has been helping me investigate Andrew for the last 2 months. Someone who knew you were in trouble before I did." Harrison tapped the partition glass. "Driver, take us to the Four Seasons." Charlotte looked at her brother, confused. "Harry, who is it?" Harrison's expression turned serious, but his eyes were kind. "You remember Julian, the boy from the neighboring estate? The one you dated that summer before college? The one you left behind when you ran away?" Charlotte's heart skipped a beat. Julian Thorne. The only man she had ever loved before Andrew. The man she had left because she was afraid of his world, the world of high finance and old money. "Julian," she whispered. He helped you. He's the CFO of Sterling Global now, Lottie," Harrison said. "And when he saw Andrew's name on the acquisition list, he was the one who flagged the accounts. He's the one who saved you." Charlotte leaned back against the seat, closing her eyes. The nightmare with Andrew was over. But a new chapter was beginning, one that involved facing the past she had run from. "He's waiting for you," Harrison said. "And Lottie." "He never married." The car sped off into the Chicago traffic, leaving the ruined life of Andrew Caldwell in the rearview mirror and driving toward a future Charlotte never thought she'd see again. Date: December 5th, 2023. Location: the Presidential Suite, Four Seasons Hotel, Chicago. The elevator ride to the penthouse was silent. Harrison stood like a sentinel, checking messages on his phone, orchestrating the fallout of the morning's events. Charlotte leaned against the mirrored wall, catching a glimpse of herself. She looked tired. Her cheap gray suit was wrinkled. Her hair was pulled back in a messy bun. She didn't look like a sterling heiress. She looked like exactly what she had been for 5 years, a worn-down wife trying to survive a narcissist. "Harry," she whispered as the elevator dinged. "I can't do this. Look at me. I'm a mess." Harrison put his phone away and turned to her. You're a survivor, Lottie. And the man waiting in that room doesn't care about the suit. He cares about the woman wearing it. The doors slid open. The suite was massive, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Chicago skyline. But Charlotte didn't notice the view. She noticed the man standing by the fireplace. He was tall, with broad shoulders that strained against a navy blue sweater. He had dark, intense eyes and a stillness about him that felt like the calm before a storm. It was Gabriel. Gabriel Hayes. He turned as they walked in. Time seemed to warp. He looked older than the boy she had left 10 years ago. There were a few silver strands in his beard and fine lines around his eyes, but the intensity of his gaze was exactly the same. "Charlotte," he said. His voice was deep, rougher than she remembered. "Gabriel," she breathed. Harrison cleared his throat. "I have a board meeting to run. The press is going to be swarming the lobby in 10 minutes. I'll handle them. You too." "Catch up." Harrison walked out, the heavy door clicking shut behind him. For a long moment, neither of them moved. The air in the room was thick with unspoken words, a decade of silence hanging between them. "I saw the live stream of the court hearing," Gabriel said, taking a tentative step forward. "You were incredible. I was terrified," Charlotte admitted, her hands gripping her purse strap. "I just wanted it to be over." "It is over," Gabriel said firmly. "He can't hurt you anymore." Harrison made sure of that. "I made sure of that." Charlotte looked down at her shoes. "Harry said you helped. That you flagged the accounts." "I did more than flag them, Lottie," Gabriel said, walking over to the minibar and pouring a glass of water. He brought it to her, his hand brushing hers. The electric shock of the touch made her jump. "When I heard Harrison was looking into Coldwell Logistics," Gabriel said, his eyes locking onto hers, "I didn't know you were involved. I just thought it was another acquisition. But then I saw the marriage certificate in the diligence files. I saw your name." He paused, his jaw tightening. "And then I saw the private investigator's photos. I saw him grabbing your arm outside that restaurant last month. I saw the bruise." Charlotte instinctively touched her arm. "You saw that?" "I saw everything," Gabriel said, his voice dropping to a dangerous growl. "And I told Harrison to buy the company. We didn't want the logistics network, Charlotte. We bought a $300 million company solely to fire one man." Charlotte's eyes widened. "Are you? You bought the whole company just to get to Andrew." "I would have burned the city down to get to him," Gabriel said simply. "For 10 years, I respected your choice. You wanted a simple life. You wanted away from the money, the pressure. I stayed away because I thought you were happy." He took the glass from her shaking hand and set it on the table. He took both her hands in his. "But the moment I realized you weren't happy. The moment I realized you were in danger. I stopped respecting your choice and started planning a war." Charlotte felt tears prick her eyes. "I'm sorry, Gabriel. I'm so sorry I left. I was young. I was stupid. I thought Andrew was different. He was a predator, Gabriel said. He smelled your vulnerability. But that's done. What matters is now. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet pouch. It wasn't a ring box, but a key. An old iron key. What is this? Charlotte asked. Harrison told you the Hamptons estate was yours, Gabriel said. But he didn't tell you about the cottage, Charlotte gasped. The cottage at the edge of the estate, her favorite place in the world. It was a small stone house overlooking the cliffs where she and Gabriel used to hide from the paparazzi when they were teenagers. I bought the land around it 3 years ago, Gabriel confessed. I kept it maintained. The garden is blooming. The roof is fixed. I thought, maybe one day. He stopped, looking vulnerable for the first time. I never stopped waiting, Charlotte. Not for a single day. Charlotte looked at the key, then up at him. She saw the love she had thrown away for a counterfeit version with Andrew. I don't know who I am anymore, Gabriel, she whispered. I'm not the girl you knew. I'm divorced. I'm broken. I have $7 to my name. Gabriel smiled, and it was dazzling. Then we'll rebuild you. And as for the $7, dinner is on me. Date, January 15th, 2024. Location, the Sterling Estate, East Hampton, New York. The ocean wind whipped against the cliffs, carrying the scent of salt and pine. Charlotte sat on the stone patio of the cottage, wrapped in a cashmere blanket, watching the waves crash against the rocks below. It had been 6 weeks since the courtroom showdown. Andrew was currently out on bail, awaiting trial. His parents had put up their retirement home to secure his release, a fact that made Charlotte feel a twinge of guilt, but only a twinge. Andrew had tried to contact her 20 times. She had blocked every number. Her life here was quiet, peaceful. She spent her days walking the grounds, reading in the library, and slowly, painfully, piecing her self-esteem back together. Gabriel visited every weekend. He would fly his helicopter in from the city on Friday nights, and for 2 days they would just exist. Cooking dinner, talking, relearning each other. But peace Charlotte was learning was fragile. Her phone buzzed on the patio table. It was a Google alert she hadn't turned off. Breaking news: disgraced exec Andrew Caldwell to give exclusive tell-all interview tonight. Charlotte's blood ran cold. She picked up the phone. The headline flashed across the screen: I was married to a monster. Andrew Caldwell claims Sterling heiress abused him and faked her poverty. She clicked the link. A preview video showed Andrew, looking gaunt and desperate, sitting opposite a tabloid journalist. She played me, Andrew said in the clip, wiping away a fake tear. She hid millions while I worked myself to death. She was mentally unstable. She threatened me. I have journals. I have recordings. Charlotte dropped the phone. It shattered on the stone patio. He wasn't stopping. He was going to drag her through the mud to try and sway the jury pool. He was going to spin the narrative that he was the victim of a powerful, vindictive billionaire family. Charlotte, she spun around. Gabriel was standing in the doorway of the cottage. He had arrived early. "Did you see it?" she asked, her voice trembling. Gabriel walked over, crunching the broken glass of her phone under his boot without looking down. "I saw it. He's going to lie," she cried. "He's going to tell the world I'm crazy. People love to hate the rich, Gabriel. They'll believe him. They'll say I used my brother's money to bully a poor husband. Let him talk," Gabriel said calmly. "No. We have to stop him. We have to get an injunction. Lottie, listen to me." Gabriel grabbed her shoulders gently. "Harrison and I knew this was coming. A narcissist never goes down quietly. He always tries to burn the house down on his way out. So what do? We let him light the match," Gabriel said, his eyes hard. "Because he doesn't know we are holding the fire extinguisher." Gabriel pulled out his tablet. "Andrew claims he has recordings." "Good. Because so do we." He tapped the screen. A video began to play. It was security footage from the Coldwell Logistics office. It was dated 3 months prior. In the video, Andrew was screaming at his secretary, throwing a stapler across the room. The audio was crystal clear. "I don't care about the safety regulations," Andrew screamed in the video. "Cut the maintenance budget. I need that cash for the bonus pool. If the trucks crash, that's an insurance problem, not my problem," Charlotte gasped. "He said that. There's more," Gabriel said. He swiped to another file. "This is a recording from inside his car. Dashcam audio he forgot to delete." The audio crackled. It was Andrew's voice, laughing. "Jessica, babe, don't worry about Charlotte. She's dumb as a rock. Once the prenup vesting period hits in 2 years, I'll divorce her, take half the potential earnings, and leave her dry. I'm just using her to look stable for the board." Gabriel turned off the tablet. "We have hours of this," Gabriel said. "We have him admitting to fraud. We have him admitting to using you. We have him abusing his staff. Why haven't you released these?" Charlotte asked. "Because we were waiting for him to make the first move," Gabriel explained. "If we release them first, we look like bullies. But if he goes on national TV tonight and claims to be a saint, and then we drop this footage 10 minutes later." Gabriel smiled, a cold, calculated smile that reminded her why he was one of the most feared CFOs in New York. "He won't just be a criminal, Charlotte. He'll be a laughing stock. He will be public enemy number 1. He is walking into a trap." Charlotte let out a breath she didn't know she was holding. She looked at Gabriel, really looked at him. He wasn't just protecting her, he was vindicating her. "You really thought of everything," she said softly. "I told you," Gabriel said, stepping closer, wrapping his arms around her waist. "I'm not losing you again. Not to him. Not to anyone." He kissed her forehead. "Now go put on that red dress I saw in your closet." We have a dinner reservation. Dinner, Charlotte blinked. Where? New York City, Gabriel said. Use the helicopter. We're going to La Bernardines. We're going to walk in the front door. The paparazzi will be there. And for the first time in your life, you aren't going to hide. I'm scared, she admitted. Don't be, Gabriel whispered, tilting her chin up so their eyes met. You're a sterling. You're a survivor. And you're with me. Date, January 15th, 2024. Location, La Bernardine, New York City. The flashbulbs were blinding. As the black SUV pulled up to the curb, the shouting began. Charlotte, is it true what Andrew said? Did you fake your poverty? The door opened. Gabriel stepped out first. He buttoned his suit jacket, looked at the crowd with a withering glare that silenced the front row, and then reached his hand back into the car. Charlotte took it. She stepped out. She was wearing a blood-red dress that fit her perfectly, her hair cascading down her shoulders in waves. She didn't look down. She looked straight ahead. Gabriel tucked her hand into the crook of his arm. Ready, ready, she whispered. They walked through the gauntlet of cameras. They didn't answer a single question. They didn't need to. The way Gabriel looked at her, like she was the only precious thing in the world, and the way she held her head high, told the story better than any interview could. Inside the restaurant, the maitre d' bowed low. Mr. Hayes. Ms. Sterling. Your table is ready. As they walked to their table, heads turned. Whispers followed. But Charlotte didn't care. She sat down, and Gabriel poured her a glass of vintage wine. To new beginnings, he said, raising his glass. To hard karma, Charlotte replied, clinking her glass against his. Just then, Gabriel's phone buzzed on the table. He glanced at it and smirked. What? Charlotte asked. Harrison just released the tapes, Gabriel said. Twitter is trending. Andrew Caldwell is already #1. Charlotte took a sip of wine. For the first time in 5 years, the knot in her chest was completely gone. She watched the man across from her, the man who had waited, who had fought, who had saved her. I love you, Gabriel, she said, the words slipping out before she could stop them. Gabriel froze. He set his glass down slowly. Say that again. I love you, she said, louder this time. I think I never stopped. Gabriel reached across the table and took her hand. I love you too, Lottie. And this time. We're doing it right. Date, March 10th, 2024. Location, Cook County Criminal Courthouse. The heavy oak doors of courtroom 4B were sealed shut, but the roar of the crowd outside could still be heard. It was sentencing day. Andrew Caldwell sat at the defense table. He looked nothing like the arrogant executive who had thrown a suitcase at his wife 5 months ago. His expensive suit hung loosely on his frame, his hair was thinning, and his eyes darted around the room with the frantic energy of a trapped animal. He had pleaded not guilty to all charges, convinced he could charm the jury. It had taken them exactly 45 minutes to return with a verdict, guilty on all 14 counts of wire fraud, embezzlement, and grand larceny. But Andrew still had one card left to play. Or so he thought. He leaned over to his court-appointed public defender, a tired man named Mr. Klein. "Did you file the motion? The one about the mistrial due to conflict of interest?" "I filed it," Andrew Klein sighed. Judge Reynolds denied it. "You're out of options. You need to show remorse." "Remorse?" Andrew hissed. "I'm the victim. The Sterlings bought the justice system. But it doesn't matter. They can send me to prison. They'll never find the real money." Andrew smiled to himself. He had been smart. He knew Caldwell Logistics might be audited one day. So for every dollar he stole, he had put 50 cents into a cold storage cryptocurrency wallet. It was worth nearly $4 million now. The physical drive was hidden in a safety deposit box in Zurich, and the password was a string of numbers only he knew. Or so he thought. "All rise," the bailiff announced. Judge Reynolds walked in, his face grim. He sat down and looked directly at Andrew. "Mr. Caldwell, before I pass sentence, the prosecution has requested to introduce one final impact statement. It is unorthodox at this stage, but given the financial restitution required, I am allowing it," Andrew scoffed. "Let me guess. Charlotte is going to cry about how I hurt her feelings." "No," the prosecutor said, standing up. "The state calls Jessica Miller." Andrew froze. Jessica. He hadn't seen her since the day she stormed out of the divorce hearing. She had ghosted him completely. The back doors opened. Jessica walked in. She wasn't pregnant anymore. She was carrying a baby carrier. She looked tired but determined. She walked to the stand, avoiding Andrew's gaze entirely. "Ms. Miller," the prosecutor asked. "You were the defendant's mistress, correct?" "I was," Jessica said, her voice shaking slightly. "And during your time together, did Mr. Caldwell ever discuss his exit strategy?" Andrew stood up, slamming his hands on the table. "Objection. Attorney-client privilege. Spousal privilege. She wasn't your lawyer and she wasn't your wife," Judge Reynolds snapped. "Sit down, Mr. Caldwell." Jessica took a deep breath. "He told me that if things ever got bad, he had a golden parachute, a crypto wallet." Andrew's face went white. "Shut up, Jessica. Don't you say a word." "He gave me the seed phrase," Jessica continued, ignoring him. "He told me to memorize it in case he was arrested, so I could access the funds and hire a cleaner to fix the witnesses." The courtroom gasped. "This was solicitation of a felony." "And do you have that phrase?" the prosecutor asked. "I do," Jessica said. She reached into her purse and pulled out a flash drive. "But I didn't use it to hire a cleaner. I gave it to the FBI 3 days ago." Andrew screamed, a guttural raw sound of pure despair. "You traitor. I gave you everything." Jessica looked at him then, her eyes cold. "You gave me nothing, Andrew. You lied about your money. You lied about your wife. And when I found out I was pregnant, you told me to get rid of it because it would ruin your image during the trial." She looked down at the baby carrier. Well, I kept him. And I made a deal. Immunity for me in exchange for every dime you hid. The FBI has seized the assets in the Zurich account, the prosecutor announced. The $4 million will be used to pay back the shareholders of Coldwell Logistics and cover the legal fees of the victims. Andrew slumped into his chair. It was gone. The money. The escape plan. The future. He truly had nothing. Judge Reynolds adjusted his glasses. Andrew Coldwell, your greed knows no bounds. You betrayed your wife, your company, and even your unborn child. You are a predator in a suit. The judge banged his gavel. I sentence you to 25 years in federal prison, with no possibility of parole for the first 20. Furthermore, I am issuing a permanent restraining order keeping you from Charlotte Sterling, Harrison Sterling, and Jessica Miller. 25 years, Andrew whispered. I'll be 60. Bailiff, take him away. As the officers grabbed Andrew by the arms, he looked back one last time. He saw Charlotte sitting in the back row. She wasn't smiling. She wasn't gloating. She just looked. Done. She looked at him with the indifference of a stranger. That hurt more than the handcuffs. Date June 15th, 2024. Location: the Sterling Estate, East Hampton. The summer sun was setting over the ocean, painting the sky in hues of purple and gold. The air was filled with the sound of a string quartet playing softly on the lawn. It was a small gathering. Just close friends and family. Charlotte stood by the edge of the cliff, holding a glass of champagne. She looked stunning in a simple white sundress. She wasn't hiding behind grey suits anymore. You okay? She turned. Gabriel was there, looking handsome in a linen suit. I'm better than okay, Charlotte smiled. I just got the letter from the prison. Andrew tried to appeal. It was denied. Good, Gabriel said. He's the past, Lottie. He's a ghost. Harrison walked up, holding a baby, Jessica's baby. It's still weird that you're paying for her apartment, Harrison grumbled, though he was gently rocking the infant. Jessica was a victim too, Harry, Charlotte said softly. She did the right thing in the end. And that little boy. He deserves a chance. He's innocent, Harrison sighed. You have too much heart, little sister. That's your problem. That's her strength, Gabriel corrected him. Harrison handed the baby back to the nanny and clapped Gabriel on the shoulder. All right, I'll leave you two alone. I have a company to run. And apparently a godson to look after. Harrison walked away, leaving them alone by the cliffs. Gabriel turned to Charlotte. The wind caught her hair, blowing it across her face. He reached out and tucked it behind her ear. I have something for you, he said. Another key, Charlotte teased. No, Gabriel said. He reached into his pocket. I've been carrying this around for 10 years. Since the day you left, he pulled out a ring. It wasn't a massive diamond like the one Andrew had bought her. the one that turned out to be cubic zirconia because he was too cheap to buy the real thing. This was a vintage sapphire, dark blue like the ocean, set in platinum. It was elegant, timeless, and real. "I bought this when I was 22, Gabriel said, his voice thick with emotion. "I was going to ask you to marry me the night you ran away. I never returned it. I kept it in my safe, hoping that one day the universe would correct its mistake." He got down on one knee. "Charlotte Sterling," Gabriel said, "you've been to hell and back. You've fought for your life, your dignity, and your freedom. Now I want you to fight for your happiness. Will you marry me?" Charlotte looked at the ring, then at the ocean, then at the man who had loved her through everything. "Yes," she whispered, tears streaming down her face. "Yes, Gabriel. 1,000 times yes." He stood up and kissed her. It was a kiss that tasted of salt air, champagne, and a future that was finally truly hers. Far away in a cold concrete cell, Andrew Caldwell stared at a blank wall, realizing that the woman he called worthless had just won the game of life. But here, on the cliffs, there was only love. And that, my friends, is the story of Charlotte and the ultimate hard karma. Andrew thought he could discard a human being like trash simply because he had a little bit of power. He learned the hard way that when you dig a grave for someone else, you better dig too, because you might just fall in yourself. It's a powerful reminder: never underestimate the quiet ones. Real power isn't about shouting, bullying, or flashing money. Real power is knowing who you are, standing your ground, and having people in your corner who actually love you, not just your wallet. Now I have a question for you. If you were in Charlotte's shoes, would you have helped Jessica and the baby after everything that happened? Or would you have left them to fend for themselves? Let me know your honest thoughts in the comments below. I read every single one. If you enjoyed this story of justice served cold, please hit that like button. It really helps the channel grow. And if you haven't already, smash that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a new story. We upload brand new drama every week. Thanks for watching, and remember, be careful who you step on today. They might be the one holding the keys to your future tomorrow. See you in the next video.